It was an up and down year for Ricky Council. What did we see from him that could possibly elevate him to the squad coming up in 2025, 2026? We'll touch on that right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats, the 76ers NBA G League affiliate. If you're watching us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. In addition, your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On 76ers daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with all new free Locked On 76ers newsletter. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 your first purchase. So Ricky Council, somebody we haven't touched on too much here, Keith, had really good energy, had really good spots when he was able to get that standard deal. And then towards the end of the year when he had time to shine, he really just flew under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, it's two things with him. One, he's a guy towards the end of the season, his role was different. Another thing that I'll say, Ricky didn't talk about it a lot, but he was playing injured. I mean, he couldn't do a lot of things that he was normally could do because he was banged up. But, I feel like that when we look at Ricky Council moving forward, is he going to be a guy that you're going to go ISO with and you want him to basically go and drive the lane and initiate for others or score? No. What you want him to be a guy that he was early in the season, who comes in and he provides energy, he defends, he runs the floor, he dives for the ball, dives for loose balls. That's what his role is going to be. And, I know there's a lot of people who were critical of him, the fact that, he struggled from shooting three. He came in the year before and everybody said he wasn't a three-point shooter, but he shot 37.5% his rookie year. Last year, it dropped to 25.8. He also, his minutes went up to 17 minutes, and he averaged 7.3. He averaged 2.9 rebounds, 1.3 assists. But to me, he is going to be a guy that can provide energy for him. And I feel like, and I know a lot of people aren't high on him, but I feel like for that role, he's good for that role. He doesn't make a lot of money, and I feel like once he goes back to being that person, he'll do well. And the last thing I'm gonna say is that I also felt like Ricky wasn't comfortable. He was a guy that was going out there trying not to make mistakes. He was overthinking, and when you do that, you tend to make mistakes. But I feel like when they get the team back together, that Ricky could be someone who could come off the bench in spot duty, not all the time, but in spot duty and provide energy.
And for me, Ricky Council is somebody that I've gotten the opportunity to cover a lot from the Blue Coats standpoint and the Sixers standpoint. And, he's a really hard worker. He has a really strong work ethic. There was times when he was on the two-way, which a lot of two-ways end up doing, right? You might have a game at 11 a.m. in Wilmington, Delaware, and then you're dressing for a game at 7 p.m. with the Sixers. Of course, this was before last season, looking back a little bit. But something that was interesting to me about Ricky Council when I got the chance to talk with him when he was on assignment to the Blue Coats is the word confidence was brought up a lot. His confidence felt a little low. He wanted to get back out there. He wanted opportunities to be able to play the way that he knows he can play. And for Ricky Council, when you watched him play, you go down and play G Leaguers essentially, that confidence starts to go up a little bit. And then you go back to the NBA and you're saying, okay, this is a depleted roster for the Philadelphia 76ers, but everybody is still in the same spot. Everybody's interviewing. Everybody's trying to push the pace and do what they need to do. And then he doesn't really know where he stands. And the biggest thing to me about Ricky Council was he was in his head a lot, because as soon as he came down to the G League, he kind of realized that he was the guy that could go out there and score 40 points when he was on assignment. Then you go to the Blue Coats, and yes, you're in a situation where everybody is kind of, or the Sixers, I should say, was in a situation where everybody's on the same playing field as you. But I almost felt like that got him in his head even more than playing and coming in alongside a Tyrese, Maxey, or even a PG, because he knew in that sense, Keith, that everybody is in the same position fighting for a spot on this team or for another team to look at them and be able to pick them up to keep their NBA career alive.
Yeah, and that's why I don't get into and no offense to people going to G League assignments, but to me, that's like the biggest, I'm not going to say it's a waste of time, but it's false confidence, because it's nothing similar. Nothing is similar. Nothing.
Right.
Like, if you're a guy, if you're a first round pick and buy an NBA team and you go down to the G League, if you don't score 30 points, people are saying you had a bad game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for a guy like Ricky, I always felt like it was like, okay, you're sending him down here and you're telling him, okay, do this, do that. But that's not what his role is going to be in the NBA. It's not. So it's kind of like, yeah, you're giving him confidence, but what are you giving him confidence for? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to shoot the ball. He's not going to be that open, or you're not going to run plays through him. So to me, like, and when he would go down there and he would talk about my confidence, I'm getting this, and then you go back up and now you smack with reality again. It's the equivalent of me of, you know how you go to college or you go to college, always at the rec center, they had like the A court, but then they had the B court, and the B court was like the less heralded players. But you went over there because you were going to run, they were going to run plays for you, you were going to be the guy. But then you go over to the A court and they're like, all right, Ricky, we may pick you or we may not. So to me, I get it. Everybody talks about how we're developing players and we're doing this and we're doing that. But at the same time, you got to get game reps and you got to get actual NBA reps, especially in his role, to have confidence. Like, to me, if he wanted to bank on confidence, he should have, like, the game that really stood out to me was when they played the Charlotte Hornets earlier in the season. And at that particular time, it was a season high 17 points on 5 for 7 shooting, right? You know what I mean? And this came after this guy, like a couple of days prior to that, he had 12 points and 10 rebounds against the Houston Rockets. So those are the two games where I feel like Ricky should have been like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. Now, that Charlotte Hornets team, let's face it, that was the equivalent of a G League team. But at the same time, it was in the NBA arena, in an actual NBA game. And those are the games where he should have had the confidence from. And I think the first game against the Rockets, where he had 12 and 10, that's what you want him doing. Those are what you want him doing. You know what I mean? Like, get the grab rebounds, defend for your position, run the floor, and do all those other things. Because there are some other guys who had more productive season endings than him on the Sixers, right? What's the one guy? Marcus Bagley, right? He was better than him at the end of the season. But Ricky Council is a better player than Bagley. But Ricky, if you just have him and just focus and do what he needs to do, I think that he'll be okay. I think he can help him. Again, is he a regular rotation player? No, but he's someone that can come in, every now and then and give you what you expect of him, which is playing defense, rebounding, and running the floor.
Yeah, an energizer bunny, you could say, coming off the bench too. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. And that role, I feel, tends to fill him a little bit more and where his strengths are when you're talking about a team with a Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George, that you're looking to create a healthy team going into next season as well. So we'll continue to talk on Ricky Council throughout this. I want to go back to the assignment to the Coats and everything between when we come back after the break, because he's definitely an intriguing player that we didn't get to talk as much about in terms of his positivity with a lot of the struggles towards the end of the season, but we'll continue to talk about him as we have this episode right here on Locked On 76ers. And there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. We know the Sixers aren't in the NBA playoffs, but the atmosphere is top notch. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time. Last-minute deals save up to 60% off buying last-minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and anything else. This is actually super important. And I remember when I used to be in college, before I got the chance to cover the team a little bit, my friends and I, an hour before tip-off, would say, okay, let's just drive up to Philadelphia, see what the deals might be, and go in and get it. And Game Time was always the app that we used and got really good deals closer to Game Time. The all pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Make sure you go check it out today, because what time is it? It is Game Time. All right, so we talked a little bit about the assignment and in terms of just how different it is when you're playing in the G League versus playing in the NBA. And it's interesting to me because, you clearly understand why Nick Nurse wanted to send him down there to try to get him a little bit to play more, to kind of get that confidence back, whatever it may be. But Keith, I think assignment, when you're talking about NBA players that get assigned to G League teams, are important for players that might not play as much and are just trying to get some reps, right? Like Adem Bona was on assignment to the Blue Coats really early in the season when there was hopes of Joel Embiid coming back, when Andre Drummond was playing, so that he could get a little bit of reps instead of just, sitting and learning on the end of the bench, but also having a chance to really put in some minutes on an actual basketball court. And I'm not saying that, you shouldn't send Ricky Council down in that situation, but you all right. It's a very, very different scenario, because even when Jaden Springer was on the team, he had some assignment games with the Blue Coach just to get him to be able to play out there. With Ricky Council, he was playing. He was getting those minutes, but it was a different scenario that you're on a depleted roster. And for some reason, we're not seeing the same confidence and the same going after the basket without thinking twice from that standpoint from Ricky Council. So it was definitely an interesting flip when he was on assignment to the Delaware Blue Coats, because it was a very, very different scenario, if that makes sense from that standpoint, because he had the opportunity to play, right? It was on a team that didn't have Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey, but things weren't clicking for him in that moment, and it wasn't consistent for him, especially towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing about the assignment thing too. Like a lot of times when they go to, like, how they have those showcases, and they're like, okay, we're going to put this guy on assignment. Well, really, what they're doing is they're showcasing them around the league. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like, so, a lot of times that's what it's all about. Like, yeah, you got to get reps, or you got to, or we're going to showcase you, because you know what? There may be a team that wants to trade for you, and they want to get an up close look at you. But we're all in Vegas, we're at this showcase in Vegas, or we're in Orlando, so. And I'm just saying, so I'm not going to say a name, but like said player, that's come on, you're going to play and we're going to do it. And next thing you know, February comes around and that person is lumped into the trade. So, yeah, you got to be careful with that. Now, again, like if you're not playing, yeah, you have to play, and they want to get you the reps, because aside from that, what they do is, and if you don't play in the G League game, what they'll have is the low minute guys, they normally scrimmage the day after a game, where everyone else is like an optional practice, but the low minute guys are out there playing against, the player development coaches and doing 5-on-5. So, that's the thing. Like, the one thing that I will say, and this isn't about Ricky, but it's about, Jeff Doughton, where, Nick Nurse will say, yeah, the things that he's doing isn't translating like early on. And I'm like, you actually expected it to translate? Like, I mean, seriously, like,
no, yeah, right.
A 27-year-old who's been a two-way player for like 3 years in the NBA, who's got a lot of NBA reps. He's going up against, lesser talent opponent. He's going to be able to do things. You can't do that in the NBA. Like, the NBA is the toughest league in the world for a reason. So and that's the only thing that, not to be repetitive, but that's the only thing that I see. Like, I would love for them to say, okay, Ricky, we got you in the G League. We're not going to, now he does need to work on his shooting, so I understand that. But what you say is, we want you just to be a 3-and-D. You're going to run rim to rim. I mean, from back and forth, we're going to play you a bunch of minutes. We're going to do all this. We're going to do that. But once you start giving him a different role where you want him to create, you want him to do all this other stuff, that's just not who he is. I mean, if we're going to be real, what Ricky Council is, he's an energy guy. He's an athletic energy guy who I felt like towards the end of the season, he was trying to be someone he wasn't. He was trying to, instead of just going hard to the rim and dunking it, he was trying to be fancy, trying to be too pretty with the ball. He was trying to do these no-look passes. He was trying to do all these other things that basically led to turnovers and missed shots. So, to me, it's like, just be who you are, be an energy guy, and guess what? You'll always have a place in the roster, if you do that, because everyone can't be Joel Embiid. Everyone can't be Paul George or Tyrese Maxey.
And it's crazy to think too, and I thought a lot about this, before we're doing this episode here about Ricky, is that there is some truth in that there is a truth in that he looked like a better player when stars were on the floor. And sometimes you think, okay, well, if they have a chance to be that guy, that they will be able to do it on a roster that, didn't have the big three and a lot of other players weren't playing. But at the same time, some guys are just really good in their roles, and that is sometimes all you need. And to me, Ricky Council is that guy, because we talked about it yesterday. When you look at players, even in the postseason, and I'm not even saying if the 76ers make it to the postseason next year that Ricky Council is going to get any crazy playing time, because he won't. He might get in there to boost the energy, though. He might get in there to run the floor and give guys some rest. And sometimes you need that to give positive minutes, to be a plus on the floor, because basketball is a game of runs, right? Basketball is a game of momentum as well from that standpoint. So to me, it is almost like Ricky Council is better in his role than he was trying to display to be this top guy in a roster that was essentially all up for interviews. And sometimes that just happens. I felt that we almost saw flashes of Jeff Downe and Marcus Bagley have really, really big games trying to be that guy. Then we saw Ricky Council, but Ricky Council is a player that is better fit for a roster with a Joel Embiid, a Paul George, and a Tyrese Maxey to be in his role.
Yeah, I mean, he's an undrafted, let's be real.
Yeah.
He's an undrafted player who's extremely athletic, and he plays with energy. That's who he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you look at, TJ McConnell, undrafted energy guy, point guard. He was a point guard, so he had to make, did different things, different skill sets. But he was a long shot to make it in the league, right? And here's one thing. He never went down to the G League to play. Mm-mm. He just got the reps. Now you look at him, he's been in the league for 12 years? 12 years, right? So when you think of that, that's phenomenal. He got his third paid contract. Another guy, Hollis Thompson. Rashawn Holmes. Mm-hmm. He came in with TJ. He was a second-round pick. The Sixers traded him for cash, which I still don't understand. I just don't understand it. But anyway, he played this year for the Washington Wizards. It was his 12th season. And we're talking about a 6'9". He was a power forward in college who they turned into a center who was an energy guy. He just ran the rim. That's what you need. Everyone can't be the man. They just can't. They're not. But when you get these type of dudes, we're talking about a second-round pick. We're talking about an undrafted guy who are on their third and fourth contracts. And that's a lot of great money for them. They turned it into a career. They're going to get an NBA pension. And that's all Ricky has to do, because that's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, he could mess around and be in the league longer than some guys who were drafted in the late first round. Now, initially, it doesn't seem like he's going to get that guaranteed money. These two guys didn't get it. But guess what? They became free agents. Somebody paid them, and then their game improved, and now they're on their third deal. So that's what he needs to do.
I'm in agreement with you from that standpoint, Ricky Council. Once again, the topic of conversation here today, looking at players that we know about, the Joel Embiid and the Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, but who else can really filter out this roster to help the 76ers in the next year that you look at to be a better year than it was in 2024, 2025. So we'll continue to talk about more right here on the other side on Locked On 76ers. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports, College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Latest technology for elevated playing with Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto-low latency mode. Advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning-fast speeds you need to stay competitive. Endless entertainment with 4K streaming. Watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribe services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney+, Max, and more. Affordable and portable gaming. Play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of console. Already have a console as well? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Hosts with hardcore gaming experience can share their experience as well to be able to share to viewers what you think will be the best possible way to utilize this. So if you are in on the Xbox or EA Sports College Football, let us know in the comments how you are feeling about all of this and if you are looking to join as well. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass, Ultimate subscription, and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire Stick TV 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen as well, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen too. So make sure that you go check it out today. Once again, Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Keith, let me ask you this because you've been covering this team for a while. Is there anybody that Ricky Council reminds you of, or anybody that you feel like he can live up to in terms of a role player that has really helped the 76ers in the past? Because once again, I'm looking at somebody that can be beneficial to have some of that time, or guys just need a break. Is there anybody you compare him to from that standpoint in the past in Philadelphia?
You know, it's crazy because when we look at the position that he plays, they had a lot of guys who played who were similar. You know, I mean, I'm talking about going all the way back. I mean, like, here's one guy who wasn't as athletic, but he wasn't a shooter, but he was a better defender. But he was athletic now. But, like, we're talking about Matisse, Thybulle, or, you know, we're talking about, I mean, just name dudes. They had a lot of guys who came through here who were pretty good athletes, but they weren't exactly a finished product, right? But they looked at them as people who they could develop. Now, the one guy who he could be like, and if he works hard, a guy who really found his niche was not Horace Grant, Jerami Grant, right? Because now here's the thing, I get it. Jerami Grant was longer than him, but Jerami Grant was a guy who was a post player in high school, right, at DeMatha. He was he was a post player at Syracuse. He comes here, and then they say, okay, you're going to be a 4-3, right? Talking about a power forward, but also play the 3 position from time to time. You know what? He was extremely athletic. He couldn't shoot, but he worked on it. They ended up trading Jerami Grant. The next thing you know, he becomes a better player, right? One year, he led the Detroit Pistons in scoring. He did a lot of other things. He was a candidate for the All-Star team. He was also a candidate for the most improved player. And then voila, what happens? He makes the Olympic team, right? He wins a medal. So when you look at a guy like him, he could be someone that you can aspire to be, but there was a lot of them. I mean, just a lot of them who just didn't work out, and that's the problem, because it's a hard role for everybody, but they're all like around the 6'5", the 6'9" type of range with the Sixers, and they just play. Oh, another one was what was his name? He went to oh my gosh, I wish I'd known you was going to ask this, but Jakar Sampson, right? You remember Jakar Sampson? Mm-hmm. So Jakar Sampson was another guy who went to NC, and Jakar Sampson went to St. John's. He was an undrafted guy by the 76ers. He was 6'7", 214 pounds, right? Jakar Sampson is a guy who ended up playing 6 seasons in the NBA, 236 games. He averaged 5.2 points, 2.7 rebounds, right? And he couldn't shoot it at all either. Like, his career shooting percentage from 3 was 24.8%. But again, he's a guy who he was with Philly. Philly waived him. He ended up going to Denver, right? He gets traded to Denver. Then he goes to SAC. Then he goes to Chicago, and he ends his career playing 2 seasons with Indiana. And we're talking about an undrafted guy from the process who was 6'7". He was 214 pounds. A guy like him who played small forward, and then they also had him play power forward. So, I'm saying there's a lot of people who he's similar to. The problem is a lot of them didn't make it because they didn't buy into that role. They all wanted to be the man. They all wanted to be this dominant player. And what those two guys did, they bought into the role, but they also worked hard on their game. And that's the reason why they had NBA careers.
I really love the comparison to Matisse, Thybulle, kind of backtracking here a little bit. Now, they're very different players, but when you look at somebody like Matisse Thybulle on a team where defense was needed, right, and he was able to bring that defense, pair him with Ben Simmons, it really worked out well for a little bit of time. I think when you're looking at somebody like Ricky Council, not as good as a defender as Matisse Thybulle, but brings that energy, is able to play that role. If you can do that role well, which you have seen, it will benefit them. And I think they're even in a better situation where Matisse played his role well, but I also think that they maybe wanted him to give more to, in the sense of get his shooting game a little bit better, which just wasn't consistently going through. For Ricky Council on a team that working at next year, you're really in a position where it can be well suited for you, as in the sense you can just be that guy. You don't even have to be anything more. And we've already seen that work from him. So I love that comparison. I think he's in a good spot right now as well.
Yeah. Exactly. The only thing I will say about that is that the Matisse was also a guy. I mean, like I'm saying, it reminds you, they're not athletic, but Matisse was kind of sort of a guy who the 76ers promised who they were going to draft. Mm-hmm. And they made that trade for him, and he was a first-round pick. The only reason why I say the other two guys is because they were second. One was a second-round pick, and the other one was an undrafted guy. You know what I mean? But the Matisse thing, yeah, and Matisse. So Matisse, there was more at there was the whole Matisse thing. It was kind of sort of like, if we're going to be real, like the expectations were a whole lot higher for Matisse than they are with him. You know what I mean? But he can, if he can do what he has to do, that's great. But as far as these other guys, we're talking about guys who, let's be real, it was like, okay, Jerami Grant, his father played in the NBA, but that doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. What can you do? Yeah.
yeah. Like, what can you do? So yeah, there was other guys like James Nolanley who played here for the 76ers. He was a 6'7", 208 pound guy. Adonis Thomas, Hollis Thomas was a little bit different. I'm just naming these guys who didn't make it, so there was a lot of them. But there was one guy who went to Clemson, and I'm trying to look him up. But I think he came there the second year. He was and he was the guy, to be honest with you, he reminds me the most of this guy. Now, this guy's name was KJ McDaniels, right? He was extremely athletic. Extremely athletic. He was 6'6". He was 205 pounds. He was a small forward / shooting guard. He could defend, but it just seemed like they never got the buy-in, or it just didn't work out. Now, granted, he ended up playing many years in the NBA. He played 3 years in the NBA, 3, but he was with the Sixers. They ended up trading him at the trade deadline his rookie year. He goes to Houston. He plays there. But with the Sixers, believe it or not, he played 52 games. Excuse me. He started 15 of them. He goes to Houston, and then from Houston, he goes to Brooklyn. He also had like a 10-day little stretch with Toronto Raptors, but that didn't really work out. But he was extremely athletic, but he was one of the guys who just slipped through the cracks. You know what I mean? He did. For his career, he shot 29% from 3. But as far as athleticism, he might have been the most athletic 76er that I've been around during my tenure. KJ McDaniels, a great guy, but it just didn't work out for him.
There you go. And we'll see if this time around works out for Ricky Council. Let us know in the comments how you feel about Ricky Council and a role you would like him to play with the 76ers. Assuming all goes well, they're healthy, Joel Embiid comes back, Paul George comes back, and everything in between. And before we send things off, we know the 76ers aren't in the playoffs, but guess what, people? You still have a chance to win prizes. How great is that? Because we'll keep you up all to date on off-season news, everything in between, talking about the biggest topics that you guys want to hear as well. And you have a chance to win some prizes until April 30th. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. Get exclusive insights into free agency, draft coverage, and team updates delivered straight to your inbox. Join the Locked On podcast for trusted coverage every day, the Locked On 76ers Network as well. Subscribe to Enter today by clicking the link in the description. Make sure you go check out our free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.